And maybe, right? Maybe the other thing as well is what would people be doing, right? To celebrate Christmas in the Iron Age.
Well, they did.
Which is quite an odd question to be asking, but it's not. So we'll come to that when we Iron Age Christmas and Iron Age children, and both discussion points for tonight. We were going to be doing Iron Age toys, but the person that wanted me to do Iron Age toys was Drina, and I don't think it's fair. Right, Drina's not with us tonight because she's a bit knackered. I think she's had loads of relatives over, and that's why she's not with us tonight. And she's basically said to send her love to everyone except Roger. And
Oh, here we go. Oh, this is it. This is it. Started already. Oh,
she basically said, "Hope you." Basically, she said, "I've had a busy few days, and I'm ready for bed now. I won't be at tonight's class. Just too tired. Sending you love and good wishes for Christmas and New Year. A big kiss to you, Carl. Only." And from Drina.
Oh, dear. Turns me up.
And a big kiss for Rod, and a big kiss for David and Andy and Anne and Margaret and Judith.
That's better.
Yeah, but you notice I didn't say Roger. Right, okay then. Right, anyone got anything they want to say tonight?
Yes.
Margaret.
I did a bit of industrial archaeology.
Ooh.
We want industrial archaeology. You're on full screen. I want it. Go for it.
I went on a walk and talk around the gunpowder works at a place called Sedgwick.
Ooh,
nice.
I didn't know that was on. I'd like that.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Mm.
And it was, I have seen it before, but not the whole thing. So we learned all about it. And it was in operation. This was the new gunpowder works.
Mm.
And this was in operation from the 1800s, about 1850 something till 1930. And it employed quite a lot of people from Sedgwick. That's where all the workers lived. And it was owned by various people. I think latterly it was ICI. But various buildings, a massive canal where they got the water from the River Kent and diverted a section into this canal, which fed the water wheels. And the businesses were all quite a long distance from one another because they did have explosions.
Mm-hmm.
And quite a number of they had to provide their own clothing and footwear. And they were not compensated, and quite a few people were killed in the explosions, but their families...
I don't know why people bothered, to be honest with you, but carry on.
Well, it was times were tough, flipping heck. And there were a lot of women working there doing the... There was a cooperage where they made the barrels and the crates, and the women worked there, quite a lot of women. And this carried on until they didn't do armaments. This was for quarrying and mining, basically.
This was low grade. That's what they called low grade. Yeah.
They did do munitions. I mean, he said it wasn't military, but they did munitions, which to my mind is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that makes sense.
Yeah, but it was mainly to blast quarries and for mining. So,
there's an issue with this. Basically, when it was the Nijmegen Bridge, when the Germans were meant to blow the bridge, they had mine grade gunpowder to blow it up, and it wasn't good enough. And the bridge didn't go up. So that's the difference between the cordite sort of high-powered gunpowder and the stuff that would be used for quarries. There is a huge difference.
Cordite isn't gunpowder, Carl.
But even though, I mean, there's quite a number of sites in Cumbria because of fast-flowing rivers and the wooded area, and it's away from large populations. So that's why there's quite a few in this area. But they used to export it all over our British Empire. apparently, a lot to Africa.
Ah, right, yeah, yeah.
Did
And,
they say
and you
what?
say you sorry, so we'll let Rog on in a minute. You're sorry that it closed in the 1930s, but ICI was basically, I don't think it was just in its infancy then, to be honest with you.
Well, he said that I think the last owners were ICI. I've got it written down somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't look after their workers at all, but they didn't in any industry, did they, back then? No.
No, it sounds like it. It does sound. Yeah, they didn't treat these people well at all.
No.
Oh no, that's fantastic. Where is this site again in relation to Cumbria? Because I don't know. I've not heard of it.
Sedgwick. It's all part of the Sizer Castle estate, which is a lot bigger than I realised. Sizer Castle's not far from Arnside.
Ah, right. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
ICI formed in 1926.
So it was still, yeah, massively. And
Well,
the one who would know. Thank you for that, Andy. The one that would know so much about this would be Peter, because he worked for ICI.
Yeah. Eat that up.
So anyway, that was a really nice introduction there. Roger, anything from you?
Oh, nothing. I'm still following up the Peebles stuff. Remember that
The what
stuff
stuff?
in Scotland?
Peebles,
field. There was, but these things that they were finding, some of them were the concentric circles.
Ah, right. Yeah.
And this year as well. On could be belts or jewelry or something, but Bronze to Iron Age. They're still researching and examining. So I'll read up what I got here again and see what's in the follow-up. In January's magazine is a follow-up.
Yeah, give us a little update when you're back in the new year. That
a big find found in Peebles. What people? So we'll see what they reckon with that. But it was interesting because you got those concentric circles on discs, and the sun is shown in there like a chain for something. What, I don't know. Yeah.
No, that sounds good. Nice. Well, tell us about that in the new year. Right. Anne, anything from you?
No, no. There's something I was reading, but I don't think it was really archaeology. It's more like history.
Oh, go on, try us out.
It was about the fishing industry off North America starting in 1700 and something, went on, and how they changed the ships, and they gradually got it to they caught swordfish. It was when a lot of them got maimed by these swordfish, evidently trying to catch them. Then they changed their way of doing it and had hooks that they dropped behind and went and caught these swordfish, which made it safer. But also the setup was that the captain of the boat would get about half of what they got for the fish. The others got not much. And the owner of the ship, who did none of the dangerous work, got most of the money. It reminded me with Margaret saying how they didn't treat people well. Yes, and anyway, it was more a history of a story of how a lot of these fishermen died because they were having to tackle very difficult waters, and they didn't get as good, perhaps, weather forecasting as we got, and there was a lot of death, and they went out for a couple of months at the time, came home for a week and went out again. So it made it very difficult for families as well. I thought the book was quite interesting, but I think more history really than archaeology, isn't it? That's what I was saying.
Between gunpowder and fishing, I don't think we're doing too well with the way people are being treated.
No, it didn't really go with the gunpowder. I said it was something more like a bit of history rather than archaeology. Yeah. But it was interesting to read.
Fair, that's true. David.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, and Andy.
No, other than the interest, that little yacht that we've been restoring.
Oh, yeah.
It got
Oh, that's one for David. Go on. That David will be into that. Go on. Let's do it.
it went way over budget because of the cost of things going up, and we've managed to secure another 30,000, which will finish it. So we're really pleased at that. So it should be back at Arnside middle of next year, beautifully finished.
Excellent.
Is that going to be in the water, or is it going to be?
Oh yeah, no, it'd be in the water, yeah, and sailing. So it's cost a blinking fortune, but
What is it timber built? How near is it?
yeah, it's well, it's kind of links into Anne's fishing story because it's very similar in shape to what called Morecambe Bay prawns or nobbies, which are kind of like nice curved front bow and then a very low, thin transom on the back of them for bringing the nets over the back. But it's actually a racing yacht that was built for the Royal Mersey Yacht Club. They had 12 of them to standardize racing because otherwise it was whoever had got the most money could have the fastest yacht.
What timber do they use for that? Other interest.
It was originally oak frame and pitch pine planking. Although, yeah, well, pitch pine was very popular for planking on a lot of the fishing boats because it's quite water resistant and flexible. And obviously these boats here up an estuary, they dry out, so they're getting banged up and down a lot and that. But they're beautiful shaped boats and very lovely to sail. So it's really good. However, it's not got oak frames anymore because it's very difficult to get the oak frames now because not many people grow oak in the right direction to be able to do that. So and of course they're curved, so it's actually grown especially to do it. So they're actually laminated ones now, which should be interesting to see how that actually differs slightly. But
what do you mean the oaks don't grow in the right direction?
well, the oak for the timbers, for the curved timbers, the in the frames of the ship, the shape of the ship, yeah.
Oh yeah.
They actually are grown. They're curved bits of wood. They're not straight bits stuck together. Some of them are, but the good ones are actually grown that way. So
grown specially.
Well, I don't know whether they did it specially, but certainly picked specially. Yeah. So.
Oh gosh.
Because you got your branches when you think they go out laterally like that. Exactly, so you only need a bit. Yeah, they're only sort of like 3 foot long. So there's a couple of bits we've saved for the boatyard from ones we felled in Ash Meadow, future use. But
can
I
go on?
Yeah. No, can I just jump in on this? There's a place near us called Margam Park, right? And this was 35 years ago, right? And or more. And I was there with my mum, and there was this guy explaining that the oak trees that sort of go up like this, and you've got the timber just bows down like this, right? You've got a guide saying the reason why they went down like this is because they were weighted down to actually create the ribs for the vessels that Andy's just been describing. Oh. So these were oaks that were destined to be used for the Royal Navy or whoever, and that's the point. They Andy's right. Sometimes they would go out in great woodlands and just basically try and pick the timbers, but they would be deliberately grown and then weighed down for the exact shape that you need for the vessel. It's not a precise science, is it, Andy? But then again. Then again, the way the ship is actually structured, that one might be a little bit narrow for that bit and all the rest of it. So it's a bit like choosing your timber that sometimes it's actually been grown for that purpose.
I wonder if they did that for the Merry Rose.
Well, they will have done, yeah.
Because they use such a lot of oak to build that.
They did. Well, there's the woodland behind the old boatyard there. It's called Crossfields Wood because it was Crossfield's house that it belonged to. They're all oak trees, and they're all about 100 years old. So I have no evidence, but I'm just thinking that's a bit of a coincidence that there's a lot of oak trees right behind the boatyard when they're not everywhere else. You get oak trees, but not lots of them. So I'm sure they're planted for it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Andy's very right. All this is really relevant to. See, I told you your stuff would be relevant, Anne.
Yeah.
You see, See what we did there? Right, thank you for that, Andy. Anything from you, Judith?
No, thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to mention, just reiterate that you'll get a link for next week's class via email. So look out for that, and you'll have another one. I don't know what classes we're exactly doing, because I got like 10 written in my diary, and I just thought, right, okay, which one of those do I do about the Iron Age? So I'm not exactly sure, but I'll try and get them out to early next Tuesday, and then New Year's Eve as well. And the usual thing I'm going to mention just once. Don't forget your monies for the classes for January and February, and obviously now, so get that over between now and the new year. So I'd mention that. So I think what I want to do, I did ask Judith then, didn't I? What I want to do is just is something really lightweight tonight. I've got my research. I haven't got many images because I didn't really want to I didn't want to overdo this images wise, but was it last week or the week before, we were looking at carvings, and this thing, carved heads, came up, and I just thought, right, I got a couple of carved heads from Wiltshire. I've got one from Wales. I've got one from Ireland. I've got one called the Corlec head, which is also another one from Ireland. And then I thought, right, I could go further and look at this with Scotland, but I thought, right, okay, let's just not do that. But unfortunately, my images haven't come out perfectly today. In that I haven't been able to set them the same way. There was something wrong with the device, so it's going to be me clicking onto it and then just sort of zoom in onto the image, so that's the way it's working tonight. So here we go. And nobody's mentioned anything about Roger's nose tonight, but there you go. What is the latest with your nose, Rog, anyway?
New bandage tomorrow
Hey,
by the lovely Helen.
Roger?
Yeah.
I don't think any of us care. Right. Anyway, so many carved stone heads
some
have been
do.
found in Britain. Shut up. Mostly in the north and west of the country and Ireland. A great number of them originate from a religious practice of the native Iron Age. People living in Britain both before and during the Roman era occupation of the first 4 centuries AD. So we're looking at the noughties, 100s, 200s, 300s, that type of thing. They're essentially cult objects. So when we come across objects that we don't really understand, or we can't really tell you what they're about in archaeology, we always turn to that word cult objects, but many have actually been found in Great Britain and Europe. Stone carved heads. So oh yeah, this has actually come out okay. Oh, that's come out perfect. I don't even know what I was moaning about. So shut up, Rog. At least I've got a nose. Oh, sorry, that was really bad. I'm sorry, Rog. This is on display in the Wiltshire Museum of Devices. Iron Age carved heads. Now the word Celtic comes up a lot in this discussion, but it's not really helpful because it's not. But if that word comes up, it's fair enough. But around Europe, what are commonly referred to as stone heads. Obviously, they're stone and they're carved to look like heads. And this tradition of carving heads has actually continued into the modern day and age. And there's going to be lots of fakes and forgeries of these as well. So the ones that we do really are intrigued by are the ones that have probably been found on archaeological excavations, where there's no doubt over their authenticity. They are frequently found often in areas that are known to have been Iron Age centres. Stone heads are effectively stone carvings of heads and are thought to have been made as if in place of severed heads. Right? So if that's the case, what are the archaeologists exactly saying? And this is what the discussion is about tonight, really. So in place of severed heads, which are known to have been collected at different times throughout the Iron Age. And maybe the severed head by the Iron Age is not so much a head that was associated with a loved one, but a head that may have been associated with somebody's head that you may have actually collected as a trophy after a battle. But then again, that's been seen in lots of traditions around the world at many different times and in many different places. These stone heads might be associated with places of worship. That's what some archaeologists say. And they may have been objects that people could have held in their homes. But then again, hang on a minute. Then again, you might think of these heads, not specifically to do with trophies of war, but they may have been heads associated with loved ones. And hence the head would be, again, a revered object of critical attention within Iron Age societies across North and Western Europe. And it may seem as if I'm reading this out from somewhere, but I'm not. I'm just articulating what we've got. So this sense of revered head, the sense of things that are an attraction to Iron Age people. And one of them would be the horse, for example, the horse's head. I would like to interject at this point that those that are going along to my live show next year, including Roger as well, will be aware that we look at the Mary Lloyd head, the head of a horse. And there's no coincidence that it's a head of a horse and a stone carved head representing a person. There's a link with the idea of the head. And both of these things have completely different meanings. But the head is of revered meaning to these people in the Iron Age. Are they to be seen as valuable objects? Are they to be seen as trading objects? Are they to be seen as ritual objects? Are they to be seen as heads associated with people that may represent those killed in battle? Are they supposed to be associated with loved ones, associated with the family home, for example? How clear these are varies from location to location. And what I'm going to do at the end is I've got a little bit of blurb about stone heads in Scotland, and I want you to go out and have a little look yourself. Now, these are inevitably carved within sandstone, like this example. They might be carved in soapstone. They might be carved in limestone. But these Iron Age pieces of celebrated objects are inevitably with the head rather than any other parts of the body. Now, you don't really see many bits of the body carved, such as a long bone, or such as a leg, or such as an arm or something. It's inevitably the head. Now, there's a point to be made there that I've spent, little amounts of my time in Greece, and particularly Cyprus, and occasionally you might go into a weird shop in Cyprus and you might actually find a candle which represents a baby, or a candle that represents a head, an arm, a foot, a hand, and you're thinking, oh, what's that about? But then again, is this a tradition that's come through to the modern day and age? For example, in Greece and Cyprus, you might actually find a foot that might be burnt. It's a candle, right? Or it might be a revered object associated with the shrine. Maybe you're asking for your foot to be made better, or it's to do with something else. Not all of these objects, for example, to do with a head, naturally are as clear as representing the head, in a sense that it could mean something else. It might be a metaphor for something else. I'm trying to get those words out. So the Iron Age people called the head this as well, the seat of the soul. In Hindu society, you might talk about the sort of chakras, and the temple being where one of the key chakras are in Hindu and the Hare Krishna as well. But again, within that tradition, the seat of the soul, and believed that they had the ability to turn aside evil and bring about good fortune. So are we moving away from these being representative, for example, of somebody that you've gathered their head as a tribute in battle? Are they to do with something more powerful? The one thing therefore, that if you're thinking about these heads as something associated with having some kind of a power to do with evil or good fortune, then it takes away the meaning that these heads are to do with lopping somebody's head off in battle. It is also thought that there is a relationship between religious practices and the carving of stone heads, the actual process of carving a stone head. Now, that's an interesting thing. My Michelle, she sells various pendants and so on, and she carves out of rowan, black, thorn, oak. We're now starting to do larch, and she feels that the process of carving is very therapeutic to her, as well as selling these things and actually making money from them at the same time. So explaining perhaps why these carvings were often displayed in, let's use the word, the Celt temples, right? Or are they to be found primarily at temples? They are not, right? They're to be found at other localities. And then we think about, I know Andy's probably thinking this, and maybe David and maybe others are interested in the world of water, the figurehead on a ship. Again, there's no coincidence that the head itself is a very important thing. Back to what the Iron Age people is said to have believed, the seat of the soul. So Iron Age stone heads usually have a set form of features, right? And let's just go on to another example. I know we'll go back to this. So there we go. This is actually one from Wales, right? So the features, this may sound, so you've got a flat head, for example, maybe a flat nose. It's close set, sometimes heavy lidded. Lentoid eyes, you know, those lentoid eyes, those piercing eyes, those are lentoid eyes. Maybe abstract features. Maybe you're talking about abstract features with that one there. Maybe it's abstract that the nose is bloody huge like mine. So you shut up, Rog. You might actually get a lack of facial expression, but you might actually get facial expression at the same time, like there is in the one on the right there. An elongated head, and you're thinking, well, an elongated head, that's like talking about Olmec or civilization in Central America, or that you might be talking, for example, of the Akhenaten from ancient Egypt, or you might be talking about this, where you've got slit mouths, right? They are simplified faces, have often been thought to evoke the stern and brooding presence of an otherworld being. So you're looking at this and quite an important object, and you're looking into the face of this object, and it's looking at you, it's piercing into your soul, right? It's that brooding presence of an otherworld being. Now, we'll look at all of these. I've got a set text for these anyway. So this is actually the trouble. This is an Irish example. It's quite good, really, to be honest with you. Notice the big Uta. But it might be that people may have had big Utas back then as well. Don't worry, Roger. I'm not going to mention your nose. You haven't got a big Uta like mine. So, Roger, it's on me on this one.
I've got a big
don't worry, Roger. Calm down. It's fine. So the late Barry Rafferty, or Raftery, was an Irish archaeologist and scholar, Celtic scholar, who was known for his work on the Iron Age in Ireland. We've got two examples from there today. His internationally distinguished career was regarded by many as having a major impact on archaeology at both an Irish and European level, to do with his Iron Age projections, as well as being an inspiring and communicator in his role as the chair of Celtic archaeology at University College Dublin. Now, the one thing that he would like to say, and maybe and again that's the same one. It's quite clear. It's really good. And the Corlec head. Now this has actually got two sides to it. Two of the it's got two of the head's three faces. So you've got one there. You've actually got three faces on this one, which is quite odd. But anyway, this is another one from Ireland. So when you think about these heads and the society that these heads existed in the Iron Age, are often somewhat crudely referred to as head hunters. And despite the fact that they did collect severed heads, the Iron Age people, and did these represent part of that collection of heads, this phrase doesn't cover the respect and veneration with which they regarded them. Now, I think that's a really, really good point. Now, what do these represent? Now, if we're going to go down the avenue, for example, these represent a society that went around lopping off heads, if we want to be as crude as that. But why did they keep heads? Now, when we talk about when we talk about beheading people, and we talk about the likes of Richard Cromwell in 1660, having his head pierced with a spike, the Tower of London, and we're talking about King David's head being displayed in Shrewsbury by Edward I in the year 1283, and we might even be talking about William Wallace's head being displayed. It's almost as if they're there to just sort of as a warning, right? But how did Iron Age people see the act of the severing of a head? What was that about? The act of severing a head wasn't just to disrespect a fallen enemy. Often the heads of allies killed in battle were also collected. So in other words, you're not only collecting those from the opposite side, it's said, you might be collecting those heads from your loved ones that died in battle. And it's said that the concept of collecting the head, or the head itself in Iron Age society, whether this has got anything to do with these stone heads, is that you'd collect the head to control the head, to keep it from falling into the wrong hands. The head is a very powerful thing. And, when you think about the likes of Gordon of Khartoum, when his head was cut off, you're thinking, well, it was thought that was extremely disrespectful to cut the guy's head off. When we respected somebody, why are we cutting the person's head off? But if you think about cutting somebody's head off, you want to control, and the likes of this person's going to have no longer have control of you because you're taking a head away. Loads of different ways of looking at this. But if you think about Iron Age society, the concept of the head containing the soul stemmed from this practice, as the people of the Celts of Europe and the Iron Age peoples of Britain, and likewise, believed that if the head remained, so did the person through their soul. And the question is, why are you keeping enemies' heads as well as your own people's heads in battle? Maybe that's much more complex than meets the eye, for example. So back to our initial heads, for example, and this one, right? So Iron Age, the Iron Age peoples worshipped their many gods and goddesses through practices such as sacrifice, and it is thought that to collect heads was an interpretation of this. Now, when I think actually, Anne said earlier on, we're going to come back to you, Anne, now as well. Anne said was what she was offering tonight to us tonight about fishing and so on. Was that relevant to archaeology and history and our interpretation of the past? Yes, it is. Right. And it's the same as looking at these heads, right? We've got more understanding of our history in the modern day and age. So when we're talking about gods and goddesses, and when we're talking about heads and all these different things in the Iron Age, how much of our interpretation is correct or not? So I can say, there were lots of gods and goddesses worshipped in the Iron Age, but how were they worshipped? Did people actually give up time to worship their gods in Iron Age society when they really didn't have much time to do these things, right? And from a personal point of view, I have, to be honest with you, over the past few months, I found it very difficult to cope with the weather and cope with the animals that we've got, and that there's so much I've got to do. And it makes me think that even though I've got electricity and I've got gas and I've got water and I've got a shower and I've got communication, there's still so much I've got to do every single day. And that's with modern aids. Now, people in the Iron Age would have had no aids at all, like I've got today, right? So to be able to worship and to be able to spend time giving up time to worship in the Iron Age is almost completely absent. So maybe the head was their way of just saying, look, we're going to settle down tonight around the campfire, not the campfire, around the roundhouse fire, and then we've got the head there, and maybe we can communicate with it or something. What are we doing? The head itself is inevitably something that you can communicate with, right? It's like when you think about have you ever thought about when you've got a what's those balls called that gypsies have? Everyone's gone quiet.
Crystal balls.
That's the one. Yes. When you've got a crystal ball, you look into it and you communicate. Maybe the crystal ball today is the embodiment of these heads from the past, because the crystal ball is also circular. Thank you for that, Andy. Andy, remembering tiny little things like that are sometimes incredibly hard when you're in the moment. So it also may have been believed that the head of the fallen foe would be beneficial to the taker of their head, or a thanks to the gods and goddesses for bringing prosperity and good harvest to their family and lands, and keeping said head of somebody who was very prosperous. Right. So for example, I'm gonna put Pete into the lecture tonight. Pete's funeral's on Thursday, and we remember Peter for his contributions to these classes and making these classes prosperous online, and remembering Peter in our minds is maybe the same as having a head like this, whether it's for a loved one or whether it's for something else. And that offers us a remembrance of good times and good harvests to make those good times and harvests alive today, right? And one of the things that I always say, that I always make this point, that when we lose somebody in our lives, some people would disagree with this. I know some of you will. When we've lost somebody in our lives, I don't believe we should forget them. I don't feel that we should be forced to forget them. I don't feel that we should get over those people in our lives. They're going to be always present, and you keep them alive alongside with you by remembering them. That's what I believe, right? And maybe this type of a head thing is very much in that. So the actual existence of the so-called Iron Age head cult is a thing, or is it debatable? But it can be agreed that the reverence, the power placed into carving these heads, the reverence, symbolism, and favor of these two examples from Wiltshire today, placed upon the head motive, at the very least, a certain spiritual belief and respect was required if one managed to find themselves in possession of a human head. Whether it's a carved head or an actual human head itself, these things are very, very powerful. To lose your head is something indeed. The human heads they collected, for example, in some cases, not the stone carvings, were preserved using confer resin, resulting in embalmed heads that could be displayed without them rotting or decaying instantly. Scientists think the method of covering the heads in resin could have been either dipping them in some kind of pitch or tar or some kind of wax or what have you, and that this process may have been repeated several times over the head's afterlife, but a stone head is permanent. In France, for example, in the old Gallic world, the heads were believed to have been displayed at the front of an individual's house as a trophy to increase their status and power, and maybe to frighten their enemy if that's the case. Apart from possessing a large number of what could almost be described as stone heads, is sometimes a mystery, sometimes explained, and so on. These heads themselves comprise a wealth of information, and it's simply captivating to us today. There is simply something about these carvings that never fails to offer another explanation, and this is why we're looking at these today. So we're going to go on to another head story, and we're going to go on to this head story from the likes of Ireland, and each of these head stories has a different story, and we're going to look at our one, which is the one from Trabolgoan, County Cork. Right, and there's a scale and so on to be talking about this. So let's go over to our friend in Ireland, not that one. The Trabolgoan head. I think that one's more clearer, isn't it? There we go. This is really clear, and my God, he looks like he's got a rugby player's nose, to be honest with you. So a face from the past. This is on display in the National Museum of Ireland. A face from the past. The Trabolgoan head, the Trabolgoan stone head. And actually, if we go to the other one, there's actually a scale there. Right. So, these ain't big things at all. It's talking about five centimeters. So it's just it's about seven centimeters wide. Right. But then again, it's not exactly tiny either. So, but a nice bit of detail in there. So let's have a little look at this head. That's a better image, actually. So you're thinking about an anthropomorphic stone carving from County Cork, right? And this head, the Trabolgoan head. Now, the original entry that was written down for the Museum of Ireland on this head was written down in 1971. And the original entry for this head, for its acceptance into the museum, 904th object in 1971 accepted into the museum, it said as follows: a stone head carved on a split pebble. Okay, so it's been a pebble split, so there's so it's not completely round. Now it's roughly trapezoidal in shape, and the uncarved surface is somewhat concave, so the obverse of this. Though irregular, the carved surface is convexed. The long sides are faceted. Both the eyes are carved in false relief. Right. So what we mean by false relief, it looks like the eyes are projecting, but it's not. It's actually carved into the surface to create that relief effect, but it's relatively flat. So that's what it means by both the eyes are carved in false relief. It looks like it's projecting out, but it's not. Both the upper and the lower lids being clearly indicated by a thin line, right? The eyelids. The nose is in relief, so you've got a projecting nose. It is long and relatively broad, although somewhat irregular. Now, it looks like to me that person's had a punch to their nose, and maybe that is actually the shape of their nose. It's a big nose. Children in school used to call me Big Nose, right? I got so bloody used to it after a while, but I got a big nose. Maybe that's pretty to scale. This nose is long and relatively broad. Both nostrils are clearly indicated, so that's quite interesting that we've actually got nose, that we got the nostrils indicated. Now the lips, if we go to the lips, it's almost as if quite pursed, quite sort of kissable lips. The ideal lips to kiss, Anne. The lips in very low relief are pursed, and the effect is similar to that of a hair lip.
It's got a hair lip.
That's exactly what it says here. The effect is similar to that of a hair lip.
All right. Yeah.
So is it a hair lip? But that it is actually, they look quite realistic lips, to be honest with you, right? They do look realistic. Well, it's and spending a bit more time on this rather than the other two from Wiltshire, because this looks really realistic, and the location where this was found, I'll give you some scale as well now. It was found in a bank of a ring fort, right? So basically their equivalent of a hill fort and so on. So its length is just under 9.5 centimeters in length, right? I've got my sort of my cheek width there slightly wrong. I said 7 centimeters. It's actually saying a little bit less than that, 5.7 centimeters. Maybe I've got the scale wrong. And it's talking that the chin varies there. If you can notice the chin there. So if you're sort of looking a centimeter up, it's the width of that is about 2.4 centimeters, and that as it sort of purses out from the wonderful lips there is about 3.3 centimeters, as in this note. Now this is obviously the curiosity of this is quite something, right? And then you start to think that maybe this is not a world that is too distant from our own understanding. We in the Western world, right? Not the Islamic world, right? But in the Western world, the face and the image of the face is very important. As we know, in the Islamic world, they don't like portraying faces, right? But as a cultural thing in the modern day Western world, this isn't too far away from what we're seeing with this face. It does look quite alive, right? So this object, a small, curious representation of a human face. When it says it is a small, curious representation, but it's a powerful, curious representation, right? And it's being reminded that we are looking at echoes of a time that is so distant from us, but these are small postcards that allow us to enter a world that hitherto we had not understood. And at this moment, I want to say something quite powerful, really. That we've entered the Iron Age world months ago, and we're just picking these things out of the hat, and that there's more and more that the Iron Age gives. If I was to say, let's look at the Iron Age a year ago, maybe we would have said, look, we've got hill forts and we've got swords, and what else would we have said, right? And now we're starting to look at carved heads. We're starting to look at wonderful wooden settlement remains. We're looking at these people, for example, having wheels and chariots and carvings across various different worlds. And we're talking about a sense of familiarity. We're talking about a world that probably had a written language at some form, and these people were extremely expressive, as what we've got here. So this object, a small curious representation of human face, is thought to date from the Iron Age. Stone carvings prove a difficult artifact type to date. Now we know because it was found in a bank of an Iron Age ring fort, right? That gives it a sense of provenance, a sense of date. So stone carvings prove to be something that, even though we're not absolutely certain on their precise date, that it was made on the 14th of October, 10 years before the birth of Christ, but it gives us a sense that there's so many of them that lots of them are a genuine thing, and we understand, and they're very different from area to area. And obviously the meaning of these things from area to area, obviously Ireland's a big distance, and you've got a big chunk of water, quite choppy water, between Ireland and Wiltshire, right? And maybe examples from Scotland, or maybe examples from southeast Cymru, Wales, right? And their identifications are usually gained from research and comparison of known confirmed examples of this era, right? And as we look at this a little bit more, we start to think very similarly in some things that we've already mentioned, right? Like using the words the stern and brooding presence of an other world being, which we've mentioned exactly the same terminology that when we were looking at the two heads from Wiltshire. So stone sculptures from the Iron Age period is generally represented in two forms. So if we want to look at Europe, but we're looking at Great Britain, where you've got the two iconic forms in this Iron Age world, where there are human or animal representations. And we might think, for example, of pillars of stone, and which is something away from just specifying these heads. This is not a human form. Well, start again. It's not a human form in a sense that it's not the full human. It's just the head, right? So it's part of a human. And we said specifically, and you might have animal representations in Europe, but not so much in the British context. Majority of these iconic carvings feature a human head, as we've got varying numbers of faces, and some have more than one head but this is just basically, this is one single head. These head carvings often share a number of characteristics in their appearance, the comparison of which can aid in their dating and identification. And in the ones that we've seen, have you seen any ears? In the ones that we've seen, have we seen any hair represented? In the ones that we've seen, have we seen any beards? The answer to most of those things is no. Characteristics include simplified, sometimes crude features, as we've said, long faces, some are round, closely set, rounded or oval eyes. Well, these are oval eyes rather than round ones, sometimes heavy-lidded. Broad, long noses and slit mouths. But what else are we going to go with on that? Carrying on. Their simplified, blank and often stern faces have been thought to evoke, again for the third time, the stern and brooding presence of an other world being. And this is actually written by that Irish researcher himself, Raftery, that sort of expert of these carvings that we mentioned in regards to Wiltshire earlier on. So you can talk about these heads and repeat the same thing, but repeating the same thing is very powerful in trying to understand what these things mean. So we've mentioned about the severed head. Now, in regards to Celtic art within Europe, the head, the human head, involving evoking and looking at various artifacts is very powerful. The existence of the presence of the Celtic head cult during the Iron Age has long been a proposed theory, and it's something that could be seen to broadcast their ideas of veneration and idealization of the head. It also offers, which is something that we haven't really mentioned yet, that away from being the part of the art form, but bringing that back in, the sense of the craftsmanship in creating these as a physical practicality, that they actually created these in the first place, and we've got to remember that. They just weren't things carved on a Wednesday afternoon, and that's what we're going to do. You know, it's something very, 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 very powerful. So the seat of the soul, the other world powers and divinity, and again the sense of headhunting is when archaeologists, again, we said this at the beginning, the connections to rituals and sacrifice, whether or not a cult of the head actually existed, again, it's going that this is the thing. We're one moment the archaeologists are saying they're obsessed with collecting heads and so on in battle, then others are saying, how real is this? I know we've got heads, I know we've got decapitated heads, I know we've got stone heads, right? But there's a lot more to this head thing than meets the eye. Artistic expressions and craftsmanship is something that we should talk about a little bit more. So remember, this is the Trabolgan head, and this is a pre-Christian site, right? This is before Christianity. But when we think about something before Christianity, it could equally be part of Christian worship. When Christianity starts to become predominant as a Christian religion in Ireland and Britain by the late 300s. The records for this object note that there are similarities with this object from other parts of Great Britain, and we'll look at one from Wales after the break. So the analysis of the typology, highlighting the different styles, but there are lots of them. And you can find that there's one from Thaxted in Essex, and we might actually go on to Google Thaxted in Essex, and you've got a head from Thaxted in Essex that is apparently very similar to this. So we try that one out. Let's try it out. Let's just go on to Google. I want an excuse to go on to Google tonight, so we've got to go on to Google. So in other words, we've gone from Ireland and we're going to go to Thaxted, which is THT. Roger must be really liking this. We haven't heard from him in ages.
What?
Rog, have you ever seen any of these heads in the flesh?
No, nothing. Some of the things that carved stone heads, different, even cemeteries. It was quite a tradition to have different heads for different things, but nothing like these particular ones, no.
Well, there's a carved head. I don't think that's the one we were looking for, but yes. So basic. There it is. Right. I think this is the one they're talking about. So this is obviously going to be a later head. That's right. They're making that as a comparison with our head in Ireland, right? But there is obviously, this is a medieval example. You can clearly see that even though there are comparisons with this as the one in Ireland, which is Iron Age, and this is from the Christian period, right? There is hair on this one. There is a beard on this one, except it's got a big nose. It's got those eyes, so we could get the clear one like this. There it is again. So in some ways these heads, and I think what's being said here, if I can articulate this, what's being said here is even though the head is something very powerful as a piece of symbolism in the Iron Age, the head, and we know this, is a very powerful symbolism in the Christian world. Because when for example we look at lots of Christian churches, you can see the bosses, you can see on the rood screen, carved wooden heads, and you can see a stone head like this one at Thagstead in Essex from a medieval site. And it's to be remembered that whereas we go back to our head in Ireland, okay, let's go back to our head in Ireland, where we go back to our friend in Ireland, right? Christianity does evolve and take over earlier ideas and earlier symbolisms, right? Powerful symbolisms. However, the discovery of the Trabolgan head within an Iron Age context, and these heads may have actually started to influence Christian art in Ireland, and these heads may have influenced Christian art all the way across Western Europe because there's so many of them. And I think that's very important, that as Christianity evolves out of the Roman era and into its own thing, that we actually see heads as being very dominant within the Christian world as a piece of symbolism. And as I made that comparison earlier on to do with the Muslim faith, and that a head is not to be seen, or you can't really show a head, right? Whereas in Western Europe, that the head is a very powerful piece of symbolism that is not just within Christian art, but within Iron Age art itself. So what we are going to do after the break, and obviously I've got to be very careful, I would like this little discussion about what Iron Age people did at Christmas, right? And don't think about the obvious. Jesus Christ didn't exist until he was born, year zero. But then again, before Jesus Christ, people did exist, and what did they do at this time of year? And obviously, I want to do that after the break. I don't want to do that now. And again, maybe opening up the discussion to maybe look at. I'm very tempted to look at children's toys, Iron Age children's toys, as one of the lectures that I'm going to do over the Christmas period. And maybe to get us onto that, maybe we need to have that little discussion about how children fitted in Iron Age society. Again, if we've got time after the break, but we've got two other examples of heads to look at before we get onto that. So I think now we're going to take a break, and we've got a couple of people who've joined us online, and one given their undivided love towards Margaret, a caveman from Florida. He's got a thing for you, Margaret. He signs on every week just to say hello. Caveman says hello, Margaret. She's dead embarrassed now. Right. Okay. Anyone, Roger, anything you want to say?
Nothing yet, except that earlier one. The heads are more stylized. Whereas later you could see them trying to be clearer images of what a person would be.
And the question is, why are they stylized? When they can actually create something that is actually quite lifelike. And this is I think this is why Picasso goes into a completely different art form, away from the likes of Constable and realistic art like Carl Larsen, and you start to think, well, it doesn't mean to say that they're any less craftsmen. It means to say that they're looking on a genre that is maybe their interpretation of the world. And I think that's to be remembered, that people in the past were able to carve as good as us today, but they chose to carve in a different way. I'm not saying that they would have been capable of creating Michelangelo's work or anything like that, but it's food for thought for us to understand that they were able to create wonderful things. Right, anything from you, Margaret?
That they found mostly in kind of spiritual settings near streams or in shrines of some kind.
All over the shop. If you want to think about one found in the bank of an Iron Age site, right? That's hardly indicative of a shrine. Not to sound bombastic there, I believe me, but I don't think there's any core celeb where these things are found. I think the idea of the Iron Age, when we look at the Iron Age, is that anything goes, and you know, somebody's head to somebody might mean something to another person, and okay, so. Oh God, let's just say something really morbid. My granddad was thankfully cremated, right? But if I went and if say my granddad wasn't cremated and he was buried, I went and dug my granddad up and then had his skeletal head in my living room, right? What am I saying? What would I be saying to? Okay, I answer that question, right? I've my granddad wasn't cremated, but I've gone to the graveyard and you know I've dug up his skull, right? And now I'm displaying it in my living room, right? What does that say to you?
Well, it's the same as my husband was cremated, and I had his ashes. I had them I collected them and I had them here. So it's the same kind of thing, but just in a different form.
I'm glad you've said that, right? It makes it very easy, this question, right? But what does that mean to you then? What you've done, you've rationalized my question, which is ideal. So finally, is this you don't have to answer this question because I know it can be, but if you wanted to give an answer, what does that mean to you?
Well, he's come home. He's come home to be with his family.
Yeah, that's all we need. You've rationalized it. That makes sense. And the problem, that is exactly my point. When we're looking at the Iron Age, sometimes we don't rationalize these things. Sometimes we find a sword and it's a male archaeologist saying, "Oh, it's obviously here because there was a battle," or there's an Iron Age sword because this person was a leader, or an Iron Age sword because this person was male, when in fact it was a female. We're not rationalizing things. It's an Iron Age sword simply because they were able to make it. That's nice.
I've sent you an email, by the way. I've sent you an email of some, they're little carved heads. You'll have to have a look, that I saw in Peterborough Museum. But these are called face spouts, which were made by local people, and they were of local people. And they're called face spouts.
And you sent me an email.
I've sent you an email. I hope you've got it. These were found at Castor Roman Palace. But it says that it just shows what people look like in Roman Peterborough, and they were made by the local people, they're assuming.
All right, okay. I haven't got the email. Did you send it via Facebook?
No.
No.
All
right. I haven't got it, darling. But what we will do, right? Don't be perturbed. We will look at those images before we go on to the break. So just to keep you happy. Right. Anything for me, Anne?
Yes. Looking at this, there was a sort of religion but well, I was wondering how much of it might have been remembrance, as we were talking about, like the ashes, remembrance. Another thing I wondered whether, how in most religions or in many places, people want to live forever. They want to be remembered forever. And I wonder if influential people, the influential people of the tribe or whatever it was, would be more likely that people would produce their heads to be a sort of leader for the future. Sort of thing. I know I'm talking a bit nonsense here, but
no, you're not.
But I wondered whether some of that could become into it. And you know how some kings make themselves gods, like pharaohs, or the Shinto. It became the Japanese became the Shinto gods, and whether that was part of it, whether all of this could be part of it.
Yeah, you said some very powerful things. Then I think the main thing. Yeah, you probably saw my reaction when you said about being remembered. I think the great tragedy of modern day society is we don't allow people to be remembered. I've been quite distressed this week over being reminded over what's happened, for example, in Syria, because I always felt that opportunity to have worked in the Baghdad Museum was lost because we had a war with Iraq and so on. But the reason why I've become distressed is the scenes that we've seen to do with certain members of the ruling families, bodies being dragged in the street and burned years after they died, and I think that's actually atrocious. Whatever they did to society, and then you start to remember about being remembered and the focus of keeping those people and their influence around us, and I think it's all linked and relevant, and it's all to try and keep things in the now, and I don't think we allow ourselves to do that. We in modern day society we want to move on quite quickly, and I think that's a shame. We don't stop and think. We just, okay, they've gone now. We'll just move on to something else. And I think that's quite tragic.
Could I mention
Heads
something
all
else?
male, or are some of them, are they kind of unisex heads?
I would say they're
Oh, whether
unisex.
they're men or
It
women,
makes it easy.
can you?
It makes it easier. My answer is unisex. We'll keep it there. And also the fact that they haven't got beards and moustaches, that rings a thing as well. They don't have them, but they do in the medieval examples. Right, go with that, Anne. What were you going to say?
There was another thing I noticed, which most of the heads were quite serious, but there was one smiling.
Yeah.
And it was, there was, it's you didn't see any emotion in any of the others. They were all, but there was one of them smiling, which made that head rather special, I thought.
Mm.
But then again, lots of people can be happy and they don't need to smile.
Mm.
No,
Yeah.
but it was expressed in stone. I mean, with the work that stone is doing.
Ah, right. I see. So obviously, it's been expressed as small, rather. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's well, when we look at the other two after the break, you'll probably get another sense of that. And obviously, I want you to look at the stuff in Scotland as well. So anyway, thanks for that. Anything from you, David?
No, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to go. Happy Christmas to everybody.
Happy Christmas,
David.
David. Take care.
Delight having you,
year.
and we'll get those links to you. David, Merry Christmas. Oh, that's a shame. He always does that.
It's sudden, that one.
Yeah.
9 o'clock. Normally lasts at least half past.
Bedtime.
No, it could be. He's way up north.
No, not northwest, love, and hardly north, lovely. I'm not daft geography. It actually west.
Yeah, west of here then.
Northwest.
Yeah, over the bridge. Yeah, good. I used to hate that bit of the road. Oh God. Right. Anyway, Andy.
There's another aspect of these heads that it may be that it was not permitted to do realistic ones. Not acceptable within their culture. It's too realistic.
Oh, but that actually hits me a little bit, and I can't really express why it hits me.
Well, yeah, I always think of it in the context of photography. There are some cultures that believe that if you took their photograph, you stole their soul.
Yeah.
So it may be there may be an image issue there as well that we are not appreciating. So
that's right, and you mentioned some cultures not being able to have images, and you mentioned one, but Judaism was like that, wasn't it? I believe you couldn't have images.
Oh, no, Muslim.
Islam, yeah. Or even Christianity, graven images.
Yes.
Great. Yes, actually, he's right.
Yes.
Catholicism, yeah, and he's got that right. Yeah, sorry, I was just generalizing it.
Yeah.
And maybe Andy's right. Maybe some of these are meant to represent a wide view of what they thought, rather than an internal view what they thought of a specific figure.
Yeah.
Or subversive. Yeah.
You're getting deep there, Andy. Words that
sorry.
Roger doesn't even know what subversive means.
What? Oh yes, I do. Under subjugation.
Oh,
Trodden down.
very good. Yes.
Like Ukraine is subversive at the moment, being trodden by the beast of Russia. And Putin's
Right.
Minute,
Yeah.
leave it.
Oh, hey, politics. Hey.
Steady on, lad.
Well, it's the way of it's showing human nature in all of these things we do.
Yep.
And some of these faces, as you say, can show emotions or not. But there's a reason why they were put there. And emotion is driven the reason why they're there. As you say, we have pictures on the wall of old man and gran and all this to remember people by. I have. And people living and gone. Just as I remember sort of keeping the family around you, which is what naturally humans want to do. Gang together. So there we are.
God, stop being so deep, man.
Deep, profond, très profond, monsieur.
Well, you did ask us to discuss this. So.
You did?
No, you got it.
Très bonjour, mon corps résiste encore. Parlez-vous français, oui?
De rien, monsieur.
Stop showing off.
No.
Mon corps résiste encore. Les platitudes, hein? Oui.
How much?
You're right, tandem.
Yeah.
Right, on that note, I still want to do this thing that Margaret was on about, right? Before we have a break. Judith.
There's nothing I can add to that. No, I can't. There's so many different ideas. I can't think. I'll have a think over the break.
And from our sponsor, don't forget Camp Coffee. You can buy it at any brands of any available soup. Oh, sorry, Roger. We're not supposed to be doing advertising. Right. So what we're going to do? Margaret's going to guide my hand now, right? Andy, no, leave it. She's going to guide my hand. I want her to tell me what to type into this Chrome box thingamajig here. What are we looking at, Margaret?
Face spouts.
What?
Face spouts, not sprouts, spouts. Spouts.
I said I didn't put in sprouts, you silly woman.
Face spouts found at Castor.
Yeah.
Roman palace.
What the heck is?
Yeah, I thought that as well. I know Castor is a Roman site, but when you're talking about a Roman palace, right? Okay. Peterborough, right, okay. Castor Praetorium. Images. Oh my God! Look at that bit of wall there. Oh, that is just. Oh my God!
Nice bit of herringstone.
Do you know what? I'm doing my Roman series this week, right? And there's a tiny bit of wall at Winchester, which is actually in a building, right? Which has got a grate over it, right? And I get turned on by bits of Roman wall like that. Sorry, Andy, I just got off on one there.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Beautiful herringbone, yeah.
Oh God!
It's not so finished. Steep straight.
Look, Rog, just shut up. You're missing the love. Why I can't? Where are these bloody sprouts?
Why is it uneven? Sticky out, it's crumbling.
I saw them in the museum.
What?
All right, we're having a look now. Right. Okay. Why? Oh God. Right. Okay. Look. Right. Face spouts.
Face spouts.
Well, look. Why do we face spouts in Peterborough? Right. We're losing. I'm losing the plot now.
Yeah.
Roger, don't you?
Peterborough Museum.
All right. Look. What do you think I am? Daft?
Yeah.
What?
You wouldn't be doing it if
Roger.
you weren't, mate.
Stinky nose.
Do you know what, Roger? Can you just keep your nose out of this? You haven't even got a bloody nose. Right. Image.
I have a stinky one.
I'm getting annoyed now. Where are these face sprouts? Sprouts.
Oh, they should be there.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
right. Okay. Why don't look? They're medieval, right? So what we're going to do? Medieval.
They're not
Face
the
sprouts.
medieval, they're Roman.
Why
Oh.
didn't you didn't say they were Roman?
Yeah, they're Iron Age Roman. Yeah,
Can you make up your mind?
they're Roman.
Romano
Right.
British.
In the gloaming.
Look,
Romano British.
everyone.
Yeah.
There.
Oh,
There they are.
yes.
No,
Very good.
that's not.
That
like
one looks.
them.
Very well
Are these the
carved.
ones?
No, they're not. Oh, hang on.
Oh,
The Bacchus one
What-
No,
there.
what's
they're
that there?
small. They're
There.
small ones.
this
Yeah,
one
they're small, isn't it?
with a pipe in it.
Oh, I'll put a pipe in your bloody gob in
No,
a minute.
they're not like the ones
talking.
that I saw. No,
That one there.
You
no,
showed
they're
it
not.
to the back.
No, no.
Right, okay then. Oh God. Right, why don't we just type in Roman? Right, face
don't-
sprouts.
Why don't Margaret? Why don't you send it again and make sure that it's the right email address? Because Carl has a few email addresses.
Oh, flipping.
Yeah,
heck.
because I'm a dodgy figure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, safe
Mm.
security.
Yeah.
What? Right. Okay. Right. Is there? There's a spray sprout.
There.
There.
Looks like a vase.
No, they're
That
not.
one
Like
there.
that. No, they're not like that at all.
No, that's a statue.
Can you make up your mind? And Roger, can you just shut up?
I'm trying to help him, Carl. You know, it's difficult.
You're not helping at all. You're just winding me up.
It is
No,
difficult.
no, I wouldn't
You're
do
right.
that.
You're right, Roger. It is difficult. Yeah.
Oh my God! I just had an email off somebody that says Asian sex cult. No.
What? Wasn't me. Hmm.
Oh. Right. Yeah. Right. Just right. Okay then. For the sake of argument, right? Just I'll read out my email address. It don't matter who has it, right? I'll get loads of crap anyway, right? I'm just trying to work out what I'm doing, right? Okay. Okay. I tell you what. If I put my email address in the thingamajig box, right, Andy? Good one. Right. Here we go. That.
Picture. On your picture,
Oh,
your
right.
email address is underneath it. Just on the bottom left of the screen, your email address is showing up on your face.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Why did you tell that?
Carl J. Langford at hotmail.com. Yeah.
Oh, why didn't you just
Oh.
tell the bloody
Do
world?
that again. Do
Well,
that again.
You have. You've got it there.
Oh,
It's there anyway.
Langford
No one.
at
Right,
Hotmail.
Yeah, got it. Oh, do you know what? I've lost a bloody
.com.
serious plot here. I have. Right.
Right, I'll try again.
Yeah, you know what they used to say? Every day you get better and better. Whatever.
You must have that entered on your Zoom account, Carl. That's why it's coming up, because my name comes up full on it every time because of that.
Does it? Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, should we do a bit of advertising? Soon coming to us is wildfire rate outbreak as part of the Walking Dead Universe UK.
Right. Good plug.
Yeah, it's fine. Right, what we're going to do, we're going to take a 10-minute break, right? I need a 10-minute break. Roger needs to wash his mouth out with soap, right? As for Judith, she's annoying me, right?
I need me pudding. Yeah.
It's been your name since the start. What? Look, okay then. I don't need you stalking me online, okay?
Yeah.
Get out of it.
Everybody knows who you are, mate. All right.
Yeah.
I know they do. Do you know what?
Eminent archaeologist is what you should have.
Look, before you start, Andy, right? I spoke to this guy the other day. No word of a lie. He was a council officer, right? He said, you're karl-james, and I said, yeah. He said, oh yeah, you've just been in Downton Abbey 3, and I thought, yeah. He said, oh, I saw you building your house. I said, what? Yeah, and he said, I want to buy a copy of your book. And he said, "Oh, I've you know, I know you've been on this archaeological excavation and all the rest of it. How the hell do you know all this stuff?" Then he told me my date of birth. I thought, what the hell's going on here? Is it so
Oh,
obvious,
geez.
all this information? And he knew I was a pirate as well for 7 months, of all things.
A pirate. Oh.
He called me Pirate James.
Um,
Right, on that note, we're taking a break for 10 minutes. Right, see you in a minute, guys. And
Where's the
Judith,
top
why
of
don't you
that?
just talk to them?
What?
Boy.
Just talk to them, Judith. Nobody's heard you all night. You're just in the background chilling.
Oh, muttering to
Right. Oh. Come. What? It's Carl. Oh. Baby, that elbow. The phone. Oh. Oh.
Oh. Do you know how many mince pies the average person eats in a year?
Well, look at Roger. He's rich.
I'd say quite a lot from what I've been hearing. All this my mince pies everywhere you go.
They're
I am what?
about 30.
About 30.
About 30.
Over the winter, over the Christmas period, they eat about 30.
Yeah.
That's a lot because I don't eat any. So somebody's eating 60. That's awful.
Do you know what? Right, I've got an addiction to donuts, right? Because I can eat 12 donuts in a sitting.
You're joking. Jam ones?
Yeah.
Jammy donuts. Ooh.
Yeah, no, but basically, I went years ago. I went to my since then, I don't eat donuts anymore. Actually, the other person who is known, the most famous person who's eating donuts, is actually Chris Evans. Oh no, not Chris Evans. That other one. Who's that one who was banned from the BBC?
Banned. Ooh, I don't
Jonathan
know.
Ross.
Has he been banned?
Well,
my
he
mother
was
could make the most wonderful jammy donuts I ever
Oh
had.
my God! Stop it! You're banned.
She just made, she just made them fresh, and they were just fantastic. I've never tasted.
Oh my God! Please
Drina?
stop.
Yeah.
Drina? Did you say Drina made them?
Oh, I said my mother.
Oh, your mother.
Yeah, she couldn't cook. I mean, I always thought she was a really bad cook, but she'd never got any money. In the rationing, and she was very poor. Then when she got to about 50, she could afford a couple of cookbooks and she could afford a few ingredients, and suddenly she was doing the most fantastic things. The donuts were probably the top of the list, but she was going into all sorts of fancy goulashes and all sorts of Dundee cakes, and she suddenly had some money and could do it, and suddenly she became a cook. And I'd always thought the food was awful when I was a child, but it wasn't because she couldn't cook, it was because she hadn't got the ingredients.
Do you remember Fanny Craddock?
Mm-hmm.
Fanny Craddock and Johnny.
Fanny Craddock, yes.
Johnny Craddock?
Have you never heard of?
I didn't know there was Johnny Craddock.
No, Fanny Craddock
was a cook.
She was a television cook in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah. She had an assistant, Johnny. Yeah, and was that not her husband?
Johnny.
Yeah.
Johnny was her husband.
Yeah.
It's
He
Fanny
was
and Johnny.
a bit browbeaten, was
Well, they've
Johnny.
mushroomed now, haven't they? The number of television cooks, there seem to be one. I don't know, one for every day of the month.
I'm gonna say Roger was dead right in correcting me earlier on, but I did actually mean the cordite was used as well. There is a big difference between cordite and gunpowder. Gunpowder uses primarily sulfur, and cordite use primarily nitroglycerin and as a petroleum gelatinized addition of acetone as well. There's a big difference.
What was saltpeter? They use saltpeter in dynamite.
Yeah, potassium nitrate.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not cordite.
No.
Cordite is a sort of invented in 1880 or whatever it was to give a smokeless powder.
Burns a bit quicker as well, doesn't it?
Right, okay, we ready?
Yeah,
Are we ready?
I've sent that email to you.
Ready about time too. Right, hang on.
It says you're a stand-up archaeologist.
Oh,
he's sitting down.
That one.
Yeah.
He's sitting down. He's a very naughty boy. Right, okay, let's again. I'm lying down actually.
Oh no.
Steady.
What the hell's going on with you guys tonight? You're talking crap.
I'll just take it steadily now. You're rushing it a bit, Carl, there to keep your mind steady.
Roger, if I asked your opinion, if I wanted your opinion, I'd ask for it. I'm not really interested. I just got to try and find this email.
180 degrees north, steersman. Keep it steady. No icebergs or anything.
Look, we're not on the bloody Titanic now, love.
Nice and steady. Too late.
Look, I'm gonna have words with you in a minute, Roger. If you don't shut up, I can't concentrate. No, shut up.
What are you doing there?
I am trying to look. All right. Oh my God! I've got the email that's been sent to my junk mail alongside naughty bedrooms, the Asian sex cult ritual leaked.
What?
And
oh.
What are you on about?
No, it's gone alongside an email. Oh my God! I just
what are you doing sending
emails.
those things to poor Carl?
Who's sending a naughty thing? Is that you, Margaret? Sending a naughty thing? No.
Really?
Yeah.
Right, we're gonna go to my inbox on my Oh right, yeah, it's come under the category of Boots YSL Advent Calendar. Congratulations! If you give us your bank details, you can have a free calendar from Boots. Yeah, right. Do you think I was born yesterday?
Yeah.
By the way, somebody online has said that they're deeply in love with Judith because they've never met her.
She's an enigma.
Yeah.
I thought it was with the Halifax. Oh, right.
Don't click it, Carl. What? See,
What?
no. Judith just said something. She disappears. I don't think she exactly exists.
Because you keep calling me a Fraggle.
Oh, I have called you a Fraggle tonight. Well done.
At the best of times.
The best of times. That's by Charles Dickens.
Yeah. Oh, don't. That makes me cry.
Look at the crap I've got on you now. Right. Okay.
Bob Marley.
What am I looking at here?
It's the best of times.
There it is. Oh, for God's sake, junk. Yeah, this is the stuff I get in my junk box. There.
I'm not there, am I?
What?
I'm not there. Oh well.
No, you're not.
Depends what name you're going under, Margaret.
Perhaps it's been sent to Putin instead.
Right, there it is there.
Oh, yeah.
It's better be worthwhile clicking on this. Oh, hang on a minute, stop everyone. If I click on this, do I get some dodgy website?
You may do, who knows?
Oh, go on, click it. Go on.
There.
Hey!
Little head spouts.
Well dodgy.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, look at that. Oh, isn't that lovely?
They are really quite interesting, aren't they? I've never seen anything like
They
that.
are, aren't they? They are. It's almost somebody's gone around. Somebody's gone around cutting these things off the tops of Roman pots.
Yeah, it does look a bit like that, doesn't it? Hence the
That
name
one does in the middle of
face
yeah.
spouts. Yeah.
Face spouts.
There we go. Loads of face spouts here. Oh, that definitely looks like a dominant woman like you, Anne. Yeah. So these are the face spouts. They
Yeah.
all look miserable, like Margaret.
That second one looks
What's wrong with
like
mine? No.
a biro.
Well, the second one looks like you, Judith. Yeah, a Fraggle.
Fraggle.
What? That looks like Mr. Ben.
No.
Right. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Right. Okay. Thanks for that. I don't know where we're
Oh,
going
there's
now.
Bully there.
What?
I thought of a
Right.
question for the last segment. Can I ask it?
Yeah. Can you put that on now?
Fraggle Rock.
Yes, very rude. Very rude.
Basically, the one on the right. There we go. The one on the right looks like Michelle. No, the one on the left looks like Michelle. So the question is, Judith,
you'll get it.
the question is, Judith, which one do you look like?
The green one with the white hair, with the yellow white hair. And the head.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Right. What were you going to say, Judith? You were going to say something.
Oh, the heads. How do we know that they weren't just locked off the top of the statue? Were they definitely just made as an independent, separate thing, or were they ever once part of a statue and they've just been cut off or knocked off, or I don't know?
Well, obviously the example with the spouts, they were part of jugs at one stage. The ones that Margaret was on about from the Roman period, right? Yeah, but when we look at the they were some of them were called face jugs in the Roman period. But anyway, but basically they were made of pottery, but these are made of stone, right? And in most of what we know about from these carved heads is that they were just carved as heads.
Right.
Yeah, they were primarily carved as heads, and that's the point.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah. Okay. Thanks for that question, Roger. You're not allowed to say anything anymore, Roger. Nobody cares. Roger, what? Oh my God, it's gone wrong now. Right, I've got Fraggles everywhere now. Right there. Let the music play. Worries for. Oh, right, stop it. Get on my head, please. Right, okay. Let's go to the one found in Wales. There we go. There he is. He looks a bit like Rog. Actually, he does look like Roger, doesn't he?
It looks quite modern.
What's that, Rog?
I got a better nose than him.
He looks like a rugby player.
He looks a bit of a bruiser, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
He looks a bit of a bruiser. He's a bit rough like Rog.
Yeah.
Rog, do you want to tell him? Roger, do you want to tell him about the time that we went to Kaya and you were in the back of the car with 3 others?
3 others, huh? What happened there?
Roger asked every step of the way on the way to Kaya to get out of the car. Right. Anyway, this head itself found at the Roman site of Kaya as well. It was actually found at the Roman site of Kaya. Now, this is a site which was established at that locality in the Roman era, and one of the things that Judith just asked, right, was, are these things part of bigger statues? This one's actually got the neck, right, rather than just the head, which makes it stand out a little bit more. And it's also got ears. So the head was made of yellow quartz sandstone. So in other words, a sandstone, and was carved in a localized way, in an Iron Age form. Now, there's something very interesting about this. It was found, answering another question from somebody else, at a shrine discovered in a garden at a Roman era house within the city of Caerwen dating to the 300s, right? Now, we don't know precisely when this was created, because my notes say as follows: this head may have already been very old before it was used at the shrine in the garden of a Roman era house in the walled city of Caerwen in the 300s. So it may have already been quite old at that stage, right? Now, did this represent an Iron Age deity? Now, for once, not for once, but most of the talk has been about, do these represent individuals that you've met, individuals that you've killed? Do they represent clearly people? Are they meant to be representative of nobody specific? All those things that we mentioned. And obviously, when this is being written about by the National Museum of Wales, does it represent a local deity? Because it was found associated with a shrine in the back garden of a house excavated at Caerwen. And this is our answer to Judith, right? It was never attached to a torso, right? Because it's clearly rounded the bottom, it's not broken off. So that answers Judith's question, right? And when you look at this, when you look at another view of this, right, it does look completely different, right? Because that's another thing. If you look from sort of roughly side on, right, it's another perspective to it, right? But when you look at it front on, right, it looks flatter, right? And that can't just be by accident, right? So we know about these heads, also from ancient literary sources across Europe, and we know that these are very specific to Iron Age peoples, from all the way from Hungary all the way through to Ireland and Scotland and France and so on. So this was a specific art form. Now, so I think whoever said this, Carl doesn't like me talking about Celts and stuff. Maybe this is not a Celtic thing at all. This is another genre of what was going on in Iron Age Europe from the years before the birth of Jesus Christ all the way into the Roman period. Now, there's something else that's mentioned with this description: man's kind magical energy, right? Now, can I just introduce you to something quite strange there, right? I years ago, I used to have a friend called James, right? And we used to go down to Glastonbury, right? And he went into a shop in Glastonbury, right? And they were, nobody laugh at this, right? They were selling sandstone balls, right? Which could fit in your hand for like 30 to 40 quid, right? Just sandstone balls, right? And the guy in the shop convinced James that if he bought two, the stones would communicate with each other, right? So he gave the guy 80 quid and he bought two sandstone balls, right?
Balls.
No, balls! Stone!
Balls.
Oh, no! Sandstone pebbles, basically, right?
What?
Roger. All right, okay, yeah. There's a meaning. Roger, you've ruined what I was trying to say now, right? We went in a shop and he bought two sandstone pebbles, okay? Sandstone balls, right? And the guy convinced him that there was a certain energy in these sandstone pebbles, right? And if he could be hoodwinked in buying these two stones for 80 quid, right? And this was about 20 years ago, right? Who's to say that people are wrong when they talk about the energy of these sandstone heads, right? Got it, Rog?
Yeah, it's a bit like crystals.
Thank God for that. My God, Roger understood what I was talking about.
What?
Oh, for God, shut up! Stone heads similar to this one have survived in a large number of regions, including Cumbria. See, there you go. The Peak District, Pennines, Wiltshire, and places like Cumbria. So you guys are going to find your own examples and don't dig them up in the garden. And don't tell Claire, because she will find them, Andy. Such stone heads were probably placed in religious shrines or grottos, something that may be or may not, right? And this is, I think this is more important than mentioning about grottos and shrines, right? These sandstone heads are associated with springs, wellheads, natural landmarks, which became features of ritual veneration. Right now, there's a point to be made here, right? Now, those of you who don't know, right? Those of you who don't know, Sandy's made a joke on you. It looks like Keir Starmer, but we'll leave that one there. When these things, I used to go up into the Rhondda Valley, right? And there were like, you'd go up into the Rhondda Valley, and there'd be rock formations that actually look like faces, right? And people would like slightly carve these things in the past, and they would actually look like faces, right? So this idea that you've got these pieces of symbolism, right, and these rock faces are all part of the tradition, right? And also something else that I mentioned last week. I'm going off on a tangent, guys. Right, don't stop me. Something I mentioned last was another place where you've got stone head carvings in rock, right? And a place called Taran Dysant, which is also in South Wales. If I type, and these are actually meant to be a lot later, but some people think these are actually Taran Dysant. I think the rough translation is the place of the two saints, but that's something else. Taran Dysant. If I type in carved, hopefully we'll get it. Carved heads. I can't. Why is this not working? Carved heads. Here we go. Taran Dysant carved heads. Hopefully we'll get it. Right, there we go. Carvings, bingo, job done. So basically, in a rock face at a place known as Taran Dysant in Wales, right? Can you see that? There's basically faces being carved into the rock, and we don't know the age of these things, right? And these happen to be associated with a spring, right? So if we go back there, we might be able to find some other images, right? This one, yeah. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. These things carved into a rock. So the whole point of mentioning this, right? I know you can't, but you can see a figure there, right? The whole point of mentioning this is carved heads or carved figures in rock. Carvings in rock are quite an important thing in the Iron Age. I know these are later, right? But the carved heads that we're looking at are things from the Iron Age, as in back to this figure, right? Anyway, back to this. Is this crudely carved from local sandstone? But this head is devoid of any Roman styling or influence, despite being found in the Romanized town of Caerwent. The face is asymmetrical, and one eye, the left one, was deliberately less carved and shallower than the right. Now, why is that? And this is said to be something that we see in the Bronze Age world, where in the Bronze Age world, wooden carvings of faces, it's said, have a weaker left eye than a right eye, and it's basically some people believe in this, specifically with this carving, that the left eye is less powerful than the right eye. The left is associated with evil, and the right is associated with good, apparently, right? I believe that, however, this carving is quite skillful. Similar heads to this one have been discovered in Gaul, France, mainly on the sites of native temples, answering another question, as offerings to local deities to perhaps cure illnesses in the parts portrayed, right? So this might be that somebody's got a bad left eye, right? And it might be to embolden the individual's got a weak left eye for the left eye as it's been carved to actually be more powerful in the actual person, whatever that means. These things may have been placed into niches. They're placed all over the place, even in banks of places in Ireland. And apparently, which we can't see that, the back of the head lacks detail. There's no detail on the back of the head, no hair. and so it would make sense if it was only intended to be seen from the front. So this is all really, really important stuff. And before we go on to the last example in Ireland, right? And again, and this, I'm reading my notes, right? The term Celtic is describing the stone. Right, start again. The term Celtic in describing the stone head is problematic. Is this a Celtic style? The term is associated with the Iron Age peoples from Britain and Europe who used similar languages and a cultural and stylistic similarities in their art. So when I talk about Celtic in Europe, or when it's used in Britain, I talk about it as an art form rather than a people. Such peoples with their art form covered a vast amount of geography and time, and the head was important in their art. However, a modern viewpoint to the head as being important for many cultures, as well as called Celtic cultures, and head remains significant for many worldwide cultures, and not just for the Celtic art form. Right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on briefly, right? But we have found other examples of these, right? And if I haven't got an example of this, but there's another one being found that's a pebble, a human mask found at Bont Dul Gadvan in Montgomeryshire. And what we're going to do, I haven't seen this, but I've got an image of it. No, I've seen it, but I haven't looked for this on Google. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a quick look at another example found in Wales that's created directly out of a pebble. Okay. So if we think about, if we type in human mask pebble, and if we type in this quickly, Bont, as in bridge, Dol, Gad, Van. Hopefully we might get that. Have we got that? Dol, Gad, Van. There. Hang on. They found, can you see that one over there? That is carved. That looks like, to be honest with you, that looks like the type of thing that we would show as being a image associated with the moon. But that there is also Iron Age, and that's a pebble that's found in the heart of Wales in a place known as Bont Dulgafan, Montgomeryshire. So that's another one, pebble found in Wales. And you can see other examples there of a more complete representation. And then they're saying that there, which might be to be seen as a Celtic art form. Before you say it, Judith, yes, that does look like an alien, but that's not where we're going. Right. Okay, so finally what we're going to do, we're going to look at an Irish example, and hopefully we'll be able to have a tiny little bit of discussion, right, afterwards. And then we're going to go with there. Look at that one there, and it goes there. I tell you what, that's scary, isn't it? That is Go on, let's have your reaction, Anne. What does that look like? It's basically, this is the same. Yeah, I think this is two views of the same thing, or is it? I don't know. But Anne, what does that look like to you?
It's a head, two heads, slightly different. One of them appears to have teeth, which we haven't noticed before.
Well, actually, that little black thing there is like, yeah, there's a hole there.
Yeah, it almost looks as though there's teeth. I'm not, his lips look as though they're slightly open, and it may not be, but it looks as though it could be. And I say they've no hair and other things, just heads. But the one on the right has more of the overarch of the forehead above the eyes, the sockets.
I think. Yeah, you're right.
and it is a slightly, shall we say, lightweight. The other one's got a very circular ball type. The other one's got a narrower chin and a completely different face shape. But that's all I can say.
These are two completely different carvings. It was silly of me to say it was the same one. Yeah, these are two completely different. Yeah, so for me, looking at the one on the right, it looked quite sinister. But if we look at this one here, right, this is known as the Corlock head, right? And you can just about see it's three-sided. This one it's known as the Corlock head. Now this is from Ireland, and this is made out of limestone rather than sandstone, right? And this is substantially bigger than lots of the others. This is 33 centimeters, right? So this is a third of a meter tall.
But it's almost life size, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, just under. So
they look sinister because they're being lit from below, unfortunately, which is what makes them look very sinister. It's interesting. Also, an observation is that they're actually anatomically correct, whereas the other ones were stylized, with the eyes halfway down the head, which would be level with the ears and things.
And symmetrical.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm going to do? We're gonna go off that a minute. We're going to go on to see if we can get some more images of this. So if we can type in the Corlock head, the Corlock. Hang on, is it Lek? Corlock? Yeah, Corlock head. Oh, there we go. Corlock head. There we go. And if we go with the images, that one there is showing the three sides of it. That's showing the three sides of it. There, the three perspectives. And if we get to that showing that there, it actually looks a lot more humbler if you look at that. Anyway, if we keep that image there. So this was dated roughly probably about AD 100, a three-faced Irish stone idol. It said an idol. Yeah. That's jumping a bit.
It's the lighting again, as it been lit from the top, which makes them always look a lot more friendly as well.
Again, you look at these things, and as you've just said, you're seeing so many different things. Found in 1855, dating to the Iron Age. Iconographically very similar to ones in Europe. Archaeologists agree. Well, we don't agree that this was representing a god. It's saying it was associated with a shrine. And the head is carved in the round from a single block of limestone or a big pebble. It's quite a big, because when you think about it, this would have been about, this is quite a big stone, really. It contains three relatively simply described faces, each with similar features, including protruding eyes. Let's go back to an image of that as we're talking about a description. Yeah, look at that one there. It looks like something out of a horror movie. Yes. God. Again, look at that. It contains, there you go, including protruding eyes, thin and narrow mouths, and enigmatic expressions. The faces may depict all-knowing, all-seeing gods, representing the unity of the past, present, and future. Yeah, that makes sense. Three faces, past, present, future, and they all look the same. It basically says that they did assume initially that this was dated to about the 900s, because there was actually some human sacrifice going on in Ireland in AD 900, but it's now been redated to being from the Iron Age. And it was found. Oh, now where this was found is quite odd, right? And it's very odd, to be honest with you. Showing lots of other examples there. So let's see if we can get to there. Now, where this was found is extremely odd, right? When it was found in 1855, it said it was originally found in the Gorlek ghost house, and they're saying that this was found in a passage grave, which predated this head by 2,500 years. So it was actually found in a monument. It was found in a monument that was 2,500 years when this was found in it. Right, if you can make any sense of this. When it was found in 1855. Now this is very interesting. Archaeologists assume the call. Now the other one was known as the Corahey heads, right? But the other thing one that we've seen, right? But this is the Corlock head. Were intended as elements of a larger shrine, it said, and were buried around the same time. It was buried, it's believed, because Christian iconoclasts thought that this represented an older pagan religion. When it was eventually looked at in 1934, associated with Irish folklore, right? It was then displayed up until 1934 on a gatepost from 1865 to 1934, right? Of a rich landowner. And listen to this, right? It wasn't the only head that was found, because it was recorded in 1865. The children found lots of these heads and would throw them at each other, not knowing the ages. So in fact, it looks like lots of these had been found in Ireland, but very, very few exist today. It then talks about the Iron Age, and that this could be seen to be associated with the pulse of Ireland. And finally, it goes on to say that maybe some of these date before the birth of Christ. And I've given you an idea of scale: 33 centimeters high, between the nose tips, 22.5 centimeters at the widest point. The head cuts off just below the chin, right? And obviously there are similar enigmatic expressions. Each has basic and similar described features, yet they appear to convey slightly different moods, maybe. And it basically talks about the wedge-shaped nose, and it talks about the narrow slit of the mouth, protruding eyes off the flat face there, looking like they're in relief, wide yet closely set eyes. So if we look finally at another image, and that one there, and right, here we go. And finally, it says archaeologists assume the Corlek head was intended as a prominent element of a large structure containing other stone or wooden sculptures. These could have been mounted up on wooden figures, right? And it finally says it has a hole on its base, indicating that it may have been intended to be placed on the top of a pedestal. Oh, there's a hole underneath rather than a hole in the mouth. Yes, and that's basically what this is. It's quite a complex thing, but unfortunately the context has been lost, because when it was taken out of the chamber that it was actually found in, there is something about the hole in the mouth, but I can't find it at this minute. But yes, so I wanted to call that a day on those heads and just give you an introduction on these being found in different parts of Britain, and obviously there's lots being found in Europe. So I don't know, because this is the last one of the year, this class. I don't know if anyone's actually thought of what I said earlier on. So maybe if you want to save your questions about the heads till after this question, right, I'm going to ask you all in turn. Margaret, what would people have celebrated around Christmas time in the Iron Age in Britain?
Well, it'll be to do with the season, with the winter,
Yes.
won't it?
And the longest day, I do believe we're not far away.
The shortest
Look,
day.
Yeah,
Is
the
it
shortest day is going to be
21st or the 22nd?
on Sunday. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be on Sunday.
So,
Yeah, the shortest day is on Sunday. Yeah.
Yes.
21st Saturday. Isn't it?
Hang on a minute. Is it Saturday? Is it 21st Saturday? Oh yeah, the 21st is Saturday. Yeah.
Mm.
So the shortest day of the year is Saturday, right? So anything else you want to add to that, Margaret?
Animals hibernating. I don't know.
Okay. What about Roger? What about this celebrating? What would they have celebrated this time of year in the Iron Age?
Something to do with the darkness. That's why you get all the lights from there. I'd say because it was prominent in the Saturnalia of the Roman time.
So the idea of light, the coming of light.
Venus. You always see Venus at this time.
They say they
don't
wanted
you?
something to brighten up their day, let's say, because of the continual darkness, really, because where they were working a lot to do with farming, and that a lot of it had to be done perhaps in the darker times at the end of the day. You couldn't just stop, what with animals and everything, as you find.
Yes.
You know, they didn't have the light the same, so they have to sort of struggle with whatever they could. So you get fed up with that, as we all can do, when you think, well, let's have the light. Look, let there be light. To me,
And there
that
be
makes
light.
because brighten the spirits, your own spirit. You know, you lift your spirits a bit.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
We still got.
What? Okay. Anything else, Rog?
No.
Okay. Judith, what do you think? What would they have celebrated at Christmas, darling?
Oh, well, they had Yule, didn't they? So they had the Yule logs that they lit for, I think it lasted about 3 weeks.
Yule logs.
The Yule logs.
Yeah, and the sun coming back after, is it after Christmas Day? The sun starts to rise a little bit earlier on, set a little bit later, even if it's about a minute. It starts to turn around, and the promise of spring and all of that.
It does actually start to make a big difference. It really does. It does. Anne, anything about that thought? What would they have celebrated at Christmas? And then we're going to just talk about children, and then we'll just go with questions. Anything, Anne?
Not a bit silly, but probably snow and ice. The snow would give them a lot of light, you know, from the dull day. Snow lightens the whole thing. Also, ice. They might have gone sort of like skating or sliding about, making it a joyful happening, because the ice is flat and they don't get it any other time of the year.
Yeah, that is more. That's more like it. That we've got something occurring at this time of year that they don't have any other time of the year. That's really important. And again, you are so right. Being on the top of a hill, being on the top of a hill, it's you're not going to get this in a town or a city. You might get this in Arnside, but being on the top of a hill, right? And the ground is covered in snow. It's a completely different landscape. You are, when what you said, you've got this, you've got the lightness. It does lighten up the landscape a hell of a lot. You know, any reflection from the moon, the sun, the star, anything makes a huge difference. You are very right about that. Right, and also the landscape changes if you've got a lot of snow and you've got snow flurries. Things change, but there is also a danger. You know, if we ever had heavy snow, I'd have to get out in that field and I'd have to dig loads of sheep out. So I'd have to make sure that I've accounted for every single sheep, right? And I've not had that experience, but if I do, I'll be straight out there and I will make sure I find every single one of my sheep. But the sheep are going to probably be nice and warm anyway. Yeah, that's really important. And it affects everything. Snow. Yeah, you are so right. Okay, then Andy, anything, and Andy, you can ask two. You've got two questions now. You can answer the Christmas thing, and I think the point is, well, how would children be reacting at this time of year? So you got the two questions, Andy. What people would have been doing at Christmas and how children would have been reacting this time of year. Go on, Andy.
Well, at Christmas, they're going to be spending a lot more time communally together, aren't they? Because they're going to be indoors a lot longer. So there is going to be more socializing. There's going to be more talking, planning, feasting, eating, and the smaller crafts and things going on, and making babies too. So, got plenty of time at Christmas.
A minute.
And actually, if you want to look at those parallels, the Christmas babies that we talk about today, but we also talk about, you've just mentioned that very important thing that you've got more time together.
Yeah.
There's actually, for one moment of the year, you've got more time together at just that one single day than any other time of the year because it's dark, right? We're give or take is 2 extra minutes, but that's a big thing. We got 2 extra minutes together. Yeah.
I always think I always think if you go back earlier into earlier civilizations, that's when the cave paintings happened. So you got those long nights.
And you're doing something indoors, exactly.
Yeah.
Cave paintings, makes sense. And your light's going to be more creative because it's more focused light.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that will get you spending more time with the children as well, of course, teaching them. So.
And that you just did it then. So your children are around the adults more, and they're learning more from their adults. So that's a good one. That we'll do that one. That's so. Thank you for that, Andy. So, Anne, anything? What would the children be doing at this time of year?
Well, again, the snow and that would excite them, wouldn't it? They'd be the same as they do. They'd be probably throwing it at each other in the same way they do today. I don't think that'd be any different. And they would be finding things to drag about in the snow and make patterns, and and on the ice as well would be something they'd be in. Just children just investigate everything. If there's anything different, they want to do it and they want to see what it does, and they'd just be exploring really this different world that suddenly happened. I think.
And one thing, I don't know if I've ever told you, we had a sledge in the field, right? And one day, right, one of my sheep, Nikki, right, she somehow got tangled in this sledge, and she ran around the field with this sledge, and she would not give this sledge go. We had to leave the sledge on her for a whole 24 hours because she was obsessed with dragging this sledge around, right? Now this year she's got a lamb with her, right? And you can imagine what's going to happen there, right? So animals can be as childlike as well,
and exploring. Animals do play, don't they?
Yeah,
they do.
Yes, they do. Right, Roger, anything on that with the children's side of things?
Not particularly. That where the parents perhaps extra busy, maybe that whether to make a lot of difference. As Anne said, that they're playful and do all sorts of things and entertain themselves. But if there's snow around, well, that's a new game. It depends where you are in the country. Here, no. So I don't know. It's more of a concern perhaps for the parents, so they'd be fussing them and they may get fed up with that because of keeping them warm and not going too far, things like that. Maybe.
Yeah, and that's the other side of things. It might get a bit fed up with the children. Judith.
Am I on mute? No. I think in Ireland, they will have given the children some stones to throw at each other.
They would have given what the children what?
Stone heads to throw at each other. Sorry, that was a sick joke.
Where's Judith got in the garden?
Yeah, the stone head. Well, they did that when they found them in the 1800s. So yeah. Margaret, anything from you, and then we'll just do the usual questions and we'll call it a day. Go on.
No, I guess these days we have what they call busts of heads, don't we?
What?
They call them
the
busts.
bust of Lloyd George.
Yes, I don't know, why do they call them busts?
Oh, now that is the question. That would be a good bit of research for somebody. Why do they call them busts? Yeah.
And you've got your Mount Rushmore presidents' heads, haven't you?
Yeah.
And also there was a Confederacy version as well with Jefferson Davis carved up there as well.
Yeah. So we're still carving heads.
We're still carving
Here,
heads,
there, and
exactly.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Here, there, and everywhere. Oh, right, we're back to heads. Yeah. So, right. Anyone wants to say about the lecture today? Now, anything else, Margaret?
No, that was all. Thank you.
Roger, nothing.
Hey.
Judith, anything from you about tonight?
Yeah, the term bust comes from the French word buste, which means sculpture of the upper torso and head, apparently.
What?
So booster. The bust means the booster in French, or a carving of the head and the upper torso.
Yeah, up to the bust.
Oh, okay.
The bust.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a bit
Like
boring.
on a ship as well. Ships have got heads.
And the chesty
Yeah.
thing.
The old ships, haven't they?
The heads on ships is the toilet.
Is it what?
The heads. The name the heads is the toilet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just in passing. I know what you meant, but yeah.
Yeah.
You meant the figurehead. Yes.
Yeah.
The figurehead. Yeah. Getting confused. Right, Anne. Anything you want to say?
Would there be, because if they were more enclosed and children are much more susceptible because of their new to have diseases, children are more because they're not introduced to them and haven't had time to get any. Would there be more of that in the winter because they're so enclosed? One wonders even then.
That is a really interesting thing, because if you one thing that Catherine Kenyon would say with her excavations at Jericho in the 1950s was that the first signs that that she's finding evidence of suddenly you've got enclosed societies with none of these diseases, and you see a layer that people have got tuberculosis. And you're thinking, well, suddenly it's occurred because you've got groups of people. One minute you don't have these things, and then the next thing you've got suddenly leprosy suddenly comes from nowhere because you've got this close approximation of people. And that's a really powerful point, that that because you've got people enclosed in one location, then you're going to be prone to diseases, and also you're going to have sheep hanging around as well. You're going to have goats in the same building. We've got evidence of this at Must Farm. We've got evidence that that dogs and sheep and goats and pigs would have been in buildings with people, right? And obviously chickens as well. And one thing I do know, right, and that's just and mice and rats and things, all these things, wild cats. I just get, let's be crude, animals shit a lot, right? And if you've got lots of sheep, cats, cattle, I tell you what, some of the dirtiest animals on the planet are ducks, right? You've got one or two of them hanging around the building that you're living in, right? You're going to be neck deep in. Yeah, that's going to be a problem, and I think that's a very powerful one. One thing that I do know, that when they were excavating the to be abandoned houses dating to Vikings in Greenland, the last settlements of Vikings in Greenland, they found that it got so cold that people wouldn't go outside to toilet. They would defecate inside the buildings, right? And it was so harsh that they couldn't go outside, right? We're not talking about that happening in Britain, but what we are talking about these are winter months, and it's you could say there's a similar problem there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a very powerful thing. And yeah, and you are right that in the winter months, because people are indoors, does that mean to say that you're going to be more prone to diseases?
You wouldn't want to be making babies amongst all those animals and poo, would you?
Andy, she's got it.
It's always a way, Margaret.
Yeah, I tell you what, you could stick that one.
I was born in September, so it happened here.
Shut up, Roger. Right, finally, Andy, anything you want to say?
No, I think we covered it there. Thank you. And the disease one's an interesting one.
Yeah. Would they have celebrated Venus? Because it looks like a great big glowing lantern in the sky.
Or a
this
head.
time of the year, doesn't it?
Or a great big head.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No.
So I gotta actually, do we do diseases in the Iron Age? That might be an idea.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Yeah. Medical stuff.
I don't know, because they can tell a lot from perhaps bones.
Yeah, well, they're starting to be able to detect an awful lot of information from bones now, including diseases.
Teeth.
Yeah.
Do we know about medical practices in the Iron Age?
Yeah, you couldn't get a doctor then either.
We don't.
Hang on a minute. If you were there in the winter months and there was a medical man inside the building, you've got an on-site doctor, so you're wrong. Yeah,
true. A medicine man. Yes.
Like you've got the medicine man in that building, but he's not in our building. So, there's probably a queue outside the door.
Maybe that's why in a lot of cultures they have the kind of the medicine man or whatever is often separate, isn't he?
Yes.
And I wonder if that's why, because he got fed up with people coming around all the blooming time.
Got a bit of a toothache.
The Brilliant's playing up.
Or basically the wise woman in the village, like Anne.
Yeah.
My daughter was saying even now, because she's a doctor, and she said as soon as she tries never to tell anybody when she meets, because they'll tell you all their illnesses. They're so anxious to tell you illnesses.
Yeah. Why have I got a weight my left thumb?
Couldn't tell anybody.
No. Sorry.
Bloody hell. Right. On that note, it's only 10:16, but I'm going to say, don't forget, I'll be sending you an email to everybody about the class next week anyway. I don't know what that's going to be yet. And again, I mentioned about your monies, if you can get that over sometime. And we will be back. I do believe that the first date in the new year is Tuesday the 7th.
Oh, well, I'll miss that one. I won't be here, but I'll be here for the one after.
Oh.
Okay, that'll be good. That'll be good.
I've instructed my bank to pay you already.
Oh, hey, steady.
Hang on, Andy. I was going to say steady. There's something. Wow.
You're not going to get it yet.
But... Did you just call her a creep?
Yeah.
It's one of those Spanish payments, isn't it? Mañana. Yeah.
It's a mañana.
But they have been told.
Gringo.
Feliz Navidad.
No sé coconudo.
Feliz Navidad y Año Nuevo. Happy Christmas.
Feliz Año Nuevo.
Bellissimo, por favor. Right, anyway, anyone else want to say anything before we call it a night?
No. Happy Christmas, everybody.
Yep, happy Christmas. Thank you very much.
Same
time next year.
You'll have to wait for my next installment on the road.
Roger's doing my editing. Right, okay then. I'm going to say Merry Christmas to everybody, and if everyone wants to say Merry Christmas to everybody else, then their opportunity to do it now.
Merry Christmas,
and everyone online as well.
Have a good Christmas, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Let's hope it's a peaceful Christmas.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Be nice. Yeah.
Health and happiness.
Yes.
Health and happiness to the
No
world.
moaning and nagging.
Yeah.
Good. Right.
Oh yeah, well you don't. Yeah, well if you've got a woman around, you haven't got a choice.
See, bet
Oh,
the Iron
no,
Age
no.
people said the same thing.
Yeah.
Wished each other
But they
well.
had the women around.
Well, yeah, that swings and
Well,
roundabouts, isn't
woman.
it? So,
Yeah. Dear me.
Roger,
Yeah.
don't get started. And basically, the dodgy git online says Merry Christmas, and somebody called Gold Pond, and the person Caveman from
Ooh,
Florida
Gold
says hello
Pond.
as well.
jolly good.
Golden Pond says Merry Christmas, everyone, and dodgy git Happy Santa Colostrum. What?
How dare you?
I think that's got lost in the translation, hasn't it? Yeah.
Adios,
That's what-
amigos.
Yeah.
Adios, amigo, por favor.
Right, I'm going.
Bye.
When
See
those
you.
lads-
All right then. Anyway, many thanks everybody for your support. See you in
Okay.
the new year. Have a great
Yep.
Christmas. Happy Christmas. Take care.
Be well, everyone.
Good night, Margaret,
Bye.
Roger, and
Thanks, Carl.
Andy.
Bye-bye.
Everybody,
No,
and
no,
have a good
no, no.
Christmas. Bye-bye.
And
I
those
will.
what we mean,
And
yeah.
you. And you, Rog. Don't have a good Christmas. Anyway, that's it now. Do you know what? I've been picking my thumb to get a thorn. I managed to do it. And up your chimney. The dodgy git. Don't forget the red and white mushrooms. Why haven't got any of them, you stupid git? Oh, that's what you call it, a git. You know, right? By the way, those people on YouTube. Ah, God. You know what? I got an itchy leg. Those people on YouTube, right? I'm thinking, you guys on YouTube. What I might do is I might do probably it's going to be an hour, so I might do the lives on Monday, right? So Christmas is next week, so I might do the live recordings on Monday. So I'm going to take a note in my diary. And by the way, guys, right? If anyone would like to make any donations, it would be very, very appreciated, right? A dodgy git, it's about time you put your hand in your pocket, you tight-fisted person, right? And if anyone wants to make a contribution, you can make a contribution to buy me a coffee.com / Carl J Langford. And obviously my daily Roman stuff will continue. I'm not going to be won't be doing them every day next week. I'll probably do my Roman stuff on a Monday and Thursday and Friday, maybe. And the following week do the same thing. And anyone wants to make a donation to PayPal can do so. And there's my PayPal address. Anyone wants to send any nice little donations over to my PayPal can do so. So here we go. At outlook.com. Anyway, guys, I'm going to say thank you very much for being following me this year on YouTube. And I'm hoping that we can be up to 3,000 subscribers by the middle part of next year. Not middle part next year, the middle part of January. We're certainly going to be on 2,800 subscribers within the next few hours, which is great. And appreciate everybody subscribing. And I just got to go on my chat box for the last real live time this year with everybody else. And oh yes, the only thing I got on my chat box is to say from Margaret is Carl have sent email to you of carved heads that I saw in Peterborough Museum. That's what we didn't say. The carved heads. They weren't carved heads. They were Roman terracotta, Roman face and heads and so on that were in the Peterborough Museum. She saw them in Peterborough Museum, right? The Roman ones, but they were pottery, right? And that's Peterborough Museum, northeast of London, Peterborough Museum that she saw, and then finally. I didn't know that everyone knew my email address anyway, because it comes up on the screen here anyway. I'm not sure it comes up on the screen with you guys on there. Anyway, don't forget to get to see the Peterborough Museum. And there is my email address, which I'm sure you've all got. Just looking. See if I can see it there. Just looking at that. Anyway, I'm going to call it a night now. Diolch yn fawr chi, gwelwch chi eto. If I don't see you before Christmas, then Merry Christmas. Nadolig Llawyn, and I will hopefully see you before New Year, which is Happy New Year and Blwyddyn Newydd Dda. Everybody keep safe and thanks for your support and any donations gratefully appreciated. And that's it. Night night, folks. Night night. Diolch yn fawr chi. Night night. Amar o hyd. I'm still here. Yes, I am. That's that there. That's that there. Close this down. Close that window. Close that 1, 2, 3. Nos da. Diolch yn fawr chi.